Hey y'all, Jamie here, proud 55-year-old trans woman from New Orleans. So, where last I left off, you know, my mother had abandoned me in the spring of 1978, and I turned 8 years old. And then my dad, listen, I was too much. I was way too much for my dad to handle, and he dealt with it for 6 weeks before he passed me on to the next house. And I went to my grandmother's, my paternal grandmother. And listen, I adored my paternal grandmother. It was not a punishment for me to be sent to her house. I spent 3 years with my grandmother. And I'm going to be real honest with you. The story I'm going to tell today about being a young trans kid in a MAGA family, because MAGA did not just pop up with Donald Trump, MAGA has always been around. These people are not new. So growing up in a MAGA family, first of all, I will say when my dad gave me to my grandmother, best place he could have ever put me, because my grandmother would have never been MAGA. Believe me, my grandmother would have seen straight through Donald Trump and seen him for exactly what he is. So, but the rest of her children, except for maybe one, maybe one, my Uncle Dean, but the rest of them, honey, they're MAGA down. They're MAGA down. They love it. They can't get enough of it. They are drunk on the orange Kool-Aid. So, and that's not new. Look, their attitudes didn't just pop up. When I was living with my grandmother, and I will say they were the best 3 years of my childhood, but make no mistake, they were still rather interesting as far as the discrimination I felt and witnessed and experienced for myself and saw all around me. We went to a family get together, like they had like roasted pig and all this other stuff, like whole roasted pig and stuff. My people are real earthy. They're from the real rural parts of Louisiana, and they're Cajuns and stuff. So anyway, we're at one of the family functions, and I have a great Uncle Gaston, or I had a great Uncle Gaston. And great Uncle Gaston taught me my first joke. Mm-hmm. About a parrot, a cracker, and a black man. I'm not going to repeat that joke. It was vile. They thought it was hilarious. So I never really saw, like, all of my family would talk about a place called Inwardville. They would talk about it like it was an actual place. And they said it so much that, until I was probably 8 or 9 years old, I thought it was a real place. I honestly thought they were talking about a real place. And then I realized that they were not, and that it was just being vile. Now, not my grandmother. Never heard my grandmother use that word. Never heard her say anything bad about anyone on this planet, to be honest with you. I mean, my grandmother was a saint. I'm not even into religion, but she was a saint. And I became an altar boy. My dad put me in Catholic school there. I became an altar boy. I tried to thrive. And while I was trying to thrive, my father would come over every day when he would get off work. Listen, I will give him credit. He came over every single day to see me when he would get off of work. He would sit there and go over homework with me. He would have dinner. My grandmother would always save him a plate for dinner. And he was a young man in his 20s, and he would spend time with me. Listen, every Friday we had a standing date to go to the movies. I loved the movies, and every Friday we would go together. We would always go and do fun stuff. He would take me to Fun Fair Park, the little amusement park that was in town and stuff like that. He tried. But while he was trying, things would happen. I swished when I walked. Listen, my hips swished when I walked. I walked like a little girl. Well, actually, I walked like a grown woman. I walked like a stripper. I mean, my hips swished. And even when I was that young, 7, 8 years old, 6, 7, 8 years old. And when I was 8 years old at my grandma's, my dad looked at me one day and he said, you're either going to grow up and be gay, or you're going to grow up and marry a black woman. But either way, you're going to humiliate me. At 8 years old. That's what he tells his child at 8 years old. And he would take me out in the yard at my grandma's house to try to spend time with me. He would take me out there to throw the football or to throw a ball, whatever. And I would stand there, and literally, y'all, I would stand there with my arms crossed. I would have my arms crossed with an attitude look on my face, like, why are you doing this to me? And I would stand there, and he would walk 15, 20 feet away in my grandma's yard. He would throw the fucking football at me and hit me with it. Hit me with it. And he would walk over. He thought it was kind of humorous. He would walk over, he would pick the football up, he would walk back over 15, 20 feet away again and throw it at me again. And, this would go on for 15, 20 minutes before he would finally give in and say, just go on inside and play with your things. And I also, look, I put makeup on all of my little action figures, my little Star Wars action figures like C3PO and Skywalker, Luke Skywalker. They all had on eyeshadow, lipstick, blush. My grandma never judged me. Not once ever judged me. Not once. She helped me make little paper and aluminum foil gowns for my action figures. And then, my mother popped back up. My mother would stay in touch every once in a while, but she popped back up. And when she popped back up, she was popped out, pregnant. With my sisters with her. She had gotten them back, but she was pregnant with another kid. And if y'all want to know what happens next, surviving in that family, y'all know the routine. Be here tomorrow and I will too. I love you all. I love you all for watching, and I love you for the comments. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Please repost this as much as possible. TikTok is trying to suppress it. Thank you.